it is heartbreaking to live in societies like ours. And like within my own research, one of the main question that I'm always asking myself is, why is inequality so persistent across time, and why is poverty so persistent? And it's very difficult to untangle or unpack that problematic and to find ways of solving that.
Many people confound inequality with poverty. They used to be associated, because where you have extreme inequality, you also have a lot of poverty, but they are not the same. You can have countries that are extremely poor, but they are not unequal, because there is no uneven distribution.
Inequality is a topic that has been misunderstood, because usually it's very easy to focus on poverty, because everyone will have excellent ideas about what poverty means and how to finish poverty, but inequality means you have to change the structure of society.
I mean, the word development itself has certain connotations to it. So you have the idea that development is always positive, that it's about growth and it's about urbanization and it's about economic improvement or achievements. Whereas we know that development comes with certain side effects.
For me, good development is an Aristotelian development. That is, the life you're meant to have according to your cultural preferences, but following some universal rules like autonomy and good food and water and having shelter and all that kind of stuff, but also the personal autonomy and the opportunities. Good development is not an individual goal. So if you are in a society when everyone's poor but you're not having a good life, because you share your life with them. So this is the strongest thing of the idea of inequality, that puts the individual within the society as a public problem.
For many years, knowledge has been produced in the North. And the North is actually producing knowledge that is more pertinent and more relevant to the South. So it's now time for the South really to step up to the plate and say, you know, we have the issues, so we actually have the knowledge, and we have to begin nurturing the people who can actually think more clearly about these issues, rather than waiting for the North to come and interpret the knowledge for us.
And we've all affirmed that this is a network, and it's a transnational network, but held together by a very serious ambition, to kind of ensure that knowledge production changes its geometry. It's not just north-south, but it's south-north, and there's diffusion happening in a very different kind of way. But at the heart of all of this is a commitment to a critical intellectual practice, thinking about power relations, making them visible. It's really also about trying to understand what is new within social change and how that relates to development and inequality. We've been talking about, as part of our intellectual framework, the need for solutions. And clearly what's emerging is solutions that don't just come from above and speak to a policy milieu and audience, but also solutions that come from below, so whether it's from movements and so on. And I'll come back to this. But the important point I want to register is that the whole UNDIR initiative and process is really about a self-reflexive journey. It's been about learning from each other, coming from different national traditions of academic practice, intellectual practice, and trying to work with this intellectual compass, if you like, and find our way as we proceed.
Well, I think we know our countries better. And I would say that it's very difficult from someone coming from abroad, either north or other southern country, to get to understand our country in the same way. I mean, you can learn a lot reading books. You can spend time in other countries and learn the culture and get to know people, but it's never going to be the same.
In the global south today, in the 21st century, the challenge around the inequality question is much more complex. And so we really need to think about the horizons of innovation in the global south. The global south is finding its own way to solve these issues. and it may not appear as a coherent project for structural transformation, but there are elements in different parts of the global south.
You have to be optimistic because otherwise you despair. And if you despair, you can't wake up in the morning and go to work. If you despair, you can't talk about these issues that we always need to put on the agenda. You can't protest in the streets about democracy. You can't rise up and go to your farm. Peasants have to be optimistic because even if there are no rains, they still go to their farms and say, we are going to do better than the previous generations. But the focus is also in development is how do we think about the future in generational terms? How do we educate our children? How do we build good schools, good health facilities, so that in the long run, we are building not for ourselves, but for the future generation. And I think that's what development is all about.